Sir, when you think about the scale of this scandal, where do you think it will go down, and how do you think people will remember the Biden presidency now that we know how cognitively he was throughout the duration of his 4 years?
The auto pen scandal is going to be the biggest scandal in American history, bigger than Watergate, bigger than Iran-Contra, bigger than anything else, because you had the deep state Democrat oligarchs running this country and not somebody who was quote unquote elected. You simply can't have it. That's not the way the United States of America is allowed to operate. And my number one question is, Kamala Harris, what did you know and when did you know it? Where have you been? What were you doing? Because it is the vice president's responsibility, as well as the cabinet, to alert the American people to an inability of the commander in chief to do his job.
Biggest scandal in American history. Byron Donald, straight out of his mouth. And this thing does get pretty interesting, if I do say so myself. And we're going to jump into a little bit of this because, man, is this stuff pretty crazy. It is extremely crazy. Realizing that, Joe Biden, the guy that was elected as president, may not have been the guy that was actually running the show. It's pretty crazy stuff, man. That is some pretty crazy stuff when you really think about it, because all of the pardons that were signed, more than likely, he had no clue about them. As a matter of fact, Speaker Mike Johnson talked about a story where Biden allegedly signed a bill and he didn't even know what was in it, because Mike Johnson was saying, well, why'd you do this? And Joe Biden was like, well, I don't know. Like, what? Crazy, man. It's crazy. Let's dive in.
Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew. And now I find out that it wasn't him. He auto-penned it. Who was operating the auto-pen? You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto-pen signed it.
Trump said the quiet part out loud. Joe Biden wasn't running the country. He wasn't even signing the documents. The border wasn't opened by Biden. It was opened by an auto-pen, a machine, a robotic arm impersonating a president. Trump asked the question millions of Americans have wondered for years. Who the hell would open our borders to criminals from all over the world? Now we know. Biden didn't. He couldn't. He was the actor, the costume, the feeble front man for a radical machine hiding just out of sight. And suddenly, The Wizard of Oz doesn't seem like a children's story. It feels like a documentary. The man behind the curtain, pulling levers, creating illusions, the booming voice of authority hiding the trembling fraud behind the scenes. That was the Biden presidency, a manufactured reality. Executive orders signed by a machine, controlled by people who didn't win an election. When this takeover started, they didn't want Biden. They wanted Bernie Sanders. But when they realized Biden appeared more electable and that he'd sign anything, or rather let the autopen do it, they saw their opening. So the party ousted Bernie, not the people. The corrupted Democrat Party installed Joe Biden. Even Bernie admits it now.
It felt like they stole it from me, and I'll be honest, it broke my heart when you supported them.
But could we not also say, if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear...
Fair enough. That is, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point.
The party had their man, feeble, corruptible, empty, Joe Biden, the puppet president. And for 4 years, America lived in Oz, where everything looked real, but none of it was. Until now, because the curtain is being pulled back. Trump is pulling it, and what's behind it isn't a wizard. It's a cabal, unelected, unaccountable, and out of time. My friends, we are all anonymous, and the illusion is finally breaking.
Yeah, perfectly described. Perfectly described. The man behind the curtain. It wasn't Joe Biden. Somebody else, or a group of individuals, were really the ones that were pulling the strings. Crazy stuff to think when you really think about that. Crazy stuff. Now, I want to play this clip of a whistleblower, or Ed Martin, talking about whistleblowers actually coming to him about the Biden administration potentially, allegedly, selling pardons. Yeah, allegedly they were making money off giving people pardons. Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff.
Morning meeting, you saw talked at length at 2 stops before he went into the meeting with the House Conference, talked to the media, and he talked a lot about this issue of the auto pen. All presidents use auto pen, but there seems to be a sense in the Trump administration that Joe Biden, and this is something Ed I think is working on, that Joe Biden used the auto, or people used the auto pen to sign things on Joe Biden's behalf, including pardons that may be not legally, constitutionally permissible if it wasn't actually the president and it was some robot or whatever you call the auto pen. So here's number 3. This is a Truth Social post from the president about this topic. And again, he talked about it at length this morning. Joe Biden was not for open borders. He never talked about open borders. We're criminals of all kinds. All right, blah, 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 go through the process. It was the people that knew he was cognitively impaired and took that, and that took over the auto pen. They stole the presidency of the United States and put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest level. So, Ed, where did this start, this notion that the auto pen was improperly used, and what evidence have you seen for the president's accusation?
Well, I'll make a little news for you, Mark, here. I was in the office as U.S. Attorney for about 5 days when I wrote to a number of senior Biden officials in the White House saying, what did you know about Joe Biden's competence and the pardons? And I got some responses. And so I've been looking at this for a while. Again, I think that the question is more about competence. If you have someone who's not competent, they can't enter into a contract, right? And if you do enter into a contract, you've committed fraud. The question is whether you use a tool to trick people into entering into a fraud. So the Biden pardons are unprecedented. The ones right before Christmas that he did, people forget this. I think it's a couple thousand pardons that were done. Did he know about that? Did he really understand? Look, the pardon power is plenary, but the guy has to be competent to do it. Now you come forward to this question broadly of the auto pen. Auto pen's completely obviously legal if you're competent. And there must be a trail that shows who was in charge of the auto pen. I know this exists. Like, I worked for a governor. We had a system for an auto pen to be able to use it. And so right now we have unprecedented conduct, the pardons, unprecedented admissions, the books as well as the staffers. I had a whistleblower in my office 10 days ago, senior Democrat, saying, look, it was these 3 people that controlled access and they were making money off of it. I don't know if I believe it yet, but the point is, I think we have to get to the bottom of it for the American people and to protect the process. And that's what we're doing. And by the way, make it all the way to the bottom. It may not be criminal, but it certainly should be a scandal of the first order, maybe in human history or maybe American history. I sound like the president there, but in American history to have this kind of conduct.
Ed, I'm from Maryland, not North Carolina, so I'm not that bright. Did I miss what the news was? You said you'd make news. What was the news you made?
The news was that nobody knows until that I was writing to these folks at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and including the Biden family. I don't think anybody has seen that. So my point is, I'm bragging about being there early. Everybody got to this 120 days later.
Did they reply, or you just sent them letters?
No, they didn't.
What'd they say?
A couple of them lawyered up, and one of them wrote directly. I won't talk about what they said.
And can you and you probably won't tell us, but can you characterize who the whistleblower was? It someone who worked in the Biden White House?
Biden campaign, 2020 campaign at the highest levels.
2020, and who are the 3 people they said were doing it for money?
This is the one who's let me say it carefully. Yeah. The gatekeepers. Different characterization of who was using the access, but the gatekeepers were Klain and Anita Dunn and Bob Bauer, and those 3 were really dominant characters in the White House. Ricchetti a little bit, and obviously Jill, but I think that was the 3. I was with this person, and I said, "What about Susan Rice? What about some of these others?" And they said, "No, these were the ones."
Okay, I will politely and gently tell you his name is pronounced Ricchetti.
Oh, okay.
Soft, just so you know.
Just so I know. Okay, I'll make sure if I meet him, I'll get it right. Okay.
So allegedly, Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, and Bob Bauer were the top 3 folks that were using or in charge of this auto pen. Allegedly, of course. And possibly selling pardons. Some crazy work right there, man. If this all turns out to be true, yeah, this is going to be a scandal of epic proportions. Epic proportions. Because now you got to go back and basically get rid of everything that Biden did. Because it wasn't him that was signing it. He wasn't even aware. And like I said earlier, Mike Johnson talked about it a little bit. He had no clue. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, had been, if you're not familiar with the story, here's a little tidbit of it. Mike Johnson had been trying to meet with Biden, the Speaker of the House, trying to meet with the president for a long time. They all, Democrat leaders, made a bunch of excuses. Oh, well, no, Biden's doing this. Well, we don't have time for that. Blah, 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 blah. And then finally, he got a meeting. When he walked in, though, it wasn't just him and Biden. It was him, Biden, and a bunch of other people. I think, if I remember correctly, like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, folks like that, right? They were all in the room. And then randomly, Biden said, hey, everyone get out. I want to have a personal one-on-one with Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson said the looks on their faces said everything. They all looked scared. But Joe Biden's the president, so you got to do what he says. You got to leave. So they all got up and left. And it was just him. It was just Biden and Mike Johnson. And that's when he had that moment where he talked to Biden, and Biden had no clue, right? And then once he thought about it for a while, he was like, oh, well, he thought he signed something different, or the bill said something different. And Mike Johnson was like, no, that's not what it did. So, man. And then when you talk about the pardons, now that's the part that I'm really interested in. Because somebody by the name of Fauci got a pardon. Do we now get rid of that? Oh, boy. It's going to get good. It's going to get good real soon here. So if I hear any more news, I'll keep you guys updated. But as always, let me know your thoughts and your opinions in the comment section. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, what are you waiting on? Hit that subscribe button and hit the bell button next to it so you are notified whenever these videos drop. Peace and love. I'm out.